Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 428 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. What's up? How you been? It's February 4th, 2026. Let's get into it. I'll move the microphone out of frame. All right. Let's start by sharing my screen. Yeah, we're going to be live hacking on some Firefox stuff. Let's get started. It's February 4th, 2026, episode 428. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I think I know what I want to do today, but I've already been thrown several curveballs this morning, so we'll just see how things go. But we're just going to deal with it as it comes. That's the name of the game here. I'm going to be working in front of an audience here and dealing with real problems as they arise, and I might get stuck, sidelined, sidetracked, pulled into other stuff, and that's okay. You're just going to hang out. We're going to hang out together while that happens. That's the first thing. The second thing, the agenda that we're looking at is available to you depending on where you're watching the stream. It'll be in a different place. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's down in the video description. If you're down in the, or if you're over in Air Mozilla, it's over in the details section over there. And if you're watching this on Twitch, it's down in the channel details. And as I update the agenda, this little spinny will spin, and if you reload, you should get the most up-to-date version of the agenda. This is a very dramatic image. I debated whether or not I should include it. Now, this is from a film. This is part of my standard episode brought to you by a particular HTTP error code. And this is from Keanu.code. So this is presumably an image from a Keanu Reeves film. I don't know this one. I'm going to guess John Wick based on the sort of the violent nature of it. This looks like... is this like an old school grenade? I don't know what this is. This looks like a suit. I think the character of John Wick tends to wear a suit, but this person's also wearing a suit. I somehow suspect the same person whose finger is... Well, you know what? I have no idea who's doing this. I don't know. Is this the same person? Are they about to try and bash their finger off? Who's to say? I'm not seeing... I don't recognize this film, the frame from this film. But today's episode is brought to you by HTTP error code 428. What is that error code? Well, let's go find out. Error code 428. Precondition required. Oh, it is John Wick. He's taking his own finger off. Oh, great. So it is the same person. Incredible. Well, I don't recall that scene. I've only seen the first one. I've never seen any of the others. Precondition required. It's a client error response status code that indicates that the server requires the request to be conditional. So typically, 428 response means that a required precondition header such as if match is missing. When a precondition header does not match the server-side state, the response should be a 412 precondition failed, not precondition required. It should be failed. So, here's an example. A missing precondition in a request. A client has fetched a resource, such as my document from the server, updated it locally, and then tries to send the updated document back to the server. So it puts like this resource here. It's using a put to update. Here's the host it's going to. This is the content type, etc., etc. The server implementation requires that all put requests for the specific path or type of documents must be conditional, and sends a 428 response and says like, hey, hold up, you need to use some kind of precondition. Updating documents requires a precondition header. And if match is one of them. If match makes a request conditional, a server will return resources for get and head or upload resources for put and other non-safe methods only if the resource matches one of the E tag values in the if match request header. I see. So like, this is a way, I guess, of dealing with accidentally clobbering a resource. If there's a race, someone else is updating it at the same time, and there's a version of it that you haven't seen while you're doing your update. This is a way of having the server say, like, hold on, you need to use one of these headers, like if match, to ensure that there is no, like, conflict resolution. Like, we're going to be doing a little bit of, like, not locking so much as ensuring that we're not clobbering each other. We're not going to do some kind of like data race where a change gets written and then another change overwrites that change, and both parties think that their changes are implemented. So that's interesting. Precondition required. I did not know that. Thank you very much, Keanu Codes. That's the first thing. I am receiving a phone call. Just 1 second. Let me mute. Apologies. I don't normally take calls, but that one was from a fairly important number, and it's all been taken care of. Okay, so what's new? I did want to mention something. I wanted to mention that if you are in the UK, and you're on the release channel of Firefox Desktop, then you should notice, maybe you've noticed already, or it's about to happen, that your new tab probably looks more like this. If you have stories enabled, it'll be reorganized into sections so that you can kind of like pick and choose and see what you can have it more organized. And that just started to go out to the UK earlier this week, I believe, by default. I will say that the next step is for Canada. We're going to try and do Canada for sections. I have it on. I've opted in. I've like on for testing myself, but we're going to turn it on for Canada next. That's going to be sometime in February. And I think Ireland after that. And then after that, we're going to try going into some non-English regions, non-English speaking regions. Now that is going to require us to like build out a little bit more muscle to do the categorization. A lot of this categorization that's happening is using machine learning models to properly slot stories with some human in the loop stuff. But we have to train it up to work with other languages as well. I think like research in there is already well underway. It's just now we have to scale it up. But there you go. So that's fun. I wanted to mention that. I also want to mention there was a question that came in from the chat. It didn't come in from the chat. I got this as a DM over Matrix, I think yesterday or the day before. This message came in. I haven't clicked on the link. I did read it, but I haven't like done any follow-up work. So it's almost as if I'm reading this question for the very first time. So let's read this question. This person writes, I submitted a patch, and then there's a link to a patch some time ago, which was my first time adding a test for Firefox. Thank you very much. Thank you for your work. In the reviewer's feedback, the only thing, excuse me, not clear to me was the recommendation to use services perms remove all instead of a more complex construction with try catches that I used. The reviewer requested to make the change, but did not have an opportunity to continue this super minor discussion. I'd appreciate if you could explain this and tell me a bit more about the general practice of safeguards in Firefox tests. All right, well, let's take a look at the patch. I've not looked at this patch before. Let's take a quick peek. This is under needs. This is needs revision still. Display permissions with supported principles only. Let's also pull up the bug. This bug was filed 3 years ago. Launch Firefox with these are the steps to reproduce the bug. Let me pump up the font here. You launch Firefox with a new profile. You open preferences, privacy permissions. Click on the autoplay settings. Change about welcome status value. And click on autoplay settings. The about welcome changed value is saved. The about welcome changed value is not saved. Excuse me. So the autoplay permission for about welcome does not save the user choice. And let's take a look at this quick video here, that if you add about welcome and you choose to block audio and video and you hit save changes, it's not persisted. Okay, that is a problem. And so in this patch, display, well, hang on, let's actually take a look at the discussion that takes place here. Ideally, our about page permissions shouldn't display in this menu. Using site permissions for about welcome is really just an implementation detail. The permission is added here. I think whether we respect the user value or not, it would be best to exclude it from this menu, as the actual address is never exposed to the user directly. It's hidden from the URL bar, for example, except in about, and this page is not supposed to appear more than once per profile. It's not saved in history either. So seeing it in permissions is probably just confusing for most users. We should probably extend this check to cover default permissions too. Showing default permissions to users makes sense, so they can be overwritten. PBM permissions can be hidden through, though since changes there are temporary. Anyway, it's still odd that overriding these permissions doesn't seem to work. And then the patch author puts together a patch. And the title of the patch is Display Permissions with the Supported Principles Only. And I'm going to blast past the discussion here. I'm just going to quickly familiarize myself with the patch. So in the dialog for site permissions, the script, we're adding permissions to the list. We're ensuring that the principle is part of the supported principles set, which I'm curious to know what the criteria is there. Pardon me. Sorry for continuing to clear my throat. Let me just... Checks whether a UI for managing permissions should be exposed for a given principle. Makes sense. If there's no principle, return false. If it's not a type of NSI principle, return false. And then we check to see if it's a supported scheme. So it has to be HTTP, HTTPS, Moz extension, or file. So it doesn't include about. That makes sense. And that was probably something that was, yeah, that's been missing here. And, that's exactly the sort of thing that we want is supported principle for. So the bulk of this patch, the bulk of this patch is this test. Let's quickly familiarize ourselves with the test. Let's see, this should probably go above the use strict. That's okay. Here's the dialog. Here are the permission types that we're going to try and exercise, I guess. Some helper methods. No documentation for these, but they assert no about entries. So they open up a dialog with the permission type that's passed in, and then we make sure that the dialog is ready. We check to see what's in the permissions box. We see if there are any about origins. We assume that there should be none, or we assert that there should be none, and then we close the dialog. And then we assert particular domain entries. We open the same dialog. We do much the same thing as before. We assert that the domain origin length, so that the expected number of domains are displayed. Then we close the dialog again. And then here's the test. We also register some cleanup functions here to remove permissions. And then remove the tab, the browser. Okay, and I think this is ultimately what the authors, the question that I came in is about this part. So we're going to get to that in a second. But let's just quickly read the rest of the test. They open up the preferences, about preferences. They keep it open. They go through each permission type. They assert that no about entries show up. What is the second argument for? Context message. Context message. What's that used for? Oh, I think it's just to make it easier to reason about initial. Okay, to reason about where you are in the test, I guess. And then we add some permissions about welcome and do example. We assert that there are no entries for geo, but that for about pages, but there is an entry for example.com for geo. Okay. All right, and so the question is about this, like, let's go back to the question. The only thing that's not clear to me was the recommendation to use services, perms, remove all instead of a more complex construction with the try catches that I used. The reviewer requested to make the change but did not have an opportunity to continue the super minor discussion. Did not have an opportunity. Please see my comment above. Sorry, I'd like to thanks for the feedback. Day of the test. Could you please take another look? Why do you expect this code to throw? Seems overly defensive, complex. I'd just call remove all. So the question is about why. Yeah, I understand Emma's question here. She's wondering, why is this construction so defensive here in the register cleanup function, where we are attempting to remove some permissions, and we just kind of like silently pass. We will silently, if something has gone wrong, we'll just like let her through. And if for some reason the privacy pane is still around, we'll remove it. Both of those are kind of like unexpected conditions. You'd think that what we'd want to do really is to like close the privacy pane at the end of this task, particularly if oh, and let's see, did we not close the tab as well? Oh, that is what we're talking about. This is the tab. Yeah, we're removing it. We probably want to do that at the end of the test. I suspect so the question is why? Did not have an opportunity to continue the super minor discussion. I'd appreciate if you could explain this and tell me a bit more about the general practice of safeguards in Firefox tests. I think it's because if this fails right here, if this fails, that's actually interesting information. That's almost like a byproduct of the test. We want to know that it failed, that something has gone wrong here. That's actually very useful, because that's unexpected. If we take a look at permission test utils too, I mean, I'm not familiar with permission test utils, but let's see here. Remove. We're going to call remove from principal. Remove from principal. Let's take a quick look at the IDL. This is internally calling remove with the host. Passing no system principal will be no op. Let's take a quick peek at the permission manager C++. We're going to ensure we're not in the child process, and then we're going to take a lock and remove internal. So we ensure that we got the right arguments. If the permission is an expanded principal, which I'm trying to remember what that is, an expanded principal. Expanded principal. What is an expanded principal? If system principal is too risky to use, we want a principal to access more than one origin. Expanded principles letting us define an array of principles it subsumes. Oh, okay. So we don't allow expanded principles to be passed in. And this is remove. Add internal handles removal. Just let it do the work. We return the result of removing the permission. So there are places where this could fail, but that would be unexpected. Oh, there's a I'll follow up in the chat. There's my follow-up comment that hasn't been submitted for some reason. It's a precaution in case the test fails before the permissions are added. That's unlikely though. I didn't want to use services.perms.removeAll because I added the permissions another way. There may be permissions added by previous tests that are still needed. Am I overthinking here? Great questions. So first of all, let's see if services.perms.removeAll is used elsewhere. Yes, it's used all over the place. It's used all over the place. And if we take a look at, yeah, in cleanup functions, we're just going to like remove all here. So that's a good sign. That means that a lot of our tests sort of assume a blank slate. And cleaning up after yourself, we're not perfect by any means doing this. There's been some effort to make this better, but tests shouldn't leave sort of litter and detritus around that other tests accidentally start relying on. That's a great way of making brittle tests, where suddenly you have this like external dependency. If like you're relying on a prior test having added a permission, and that test gets removed or disabled, or changes its behavior, and suddenly your test over here is breaking, that's a great way of having brittle tests. You want your test to be quite isolated from one another in terms of like test order. They should be able to run in any order, ideally. That's the Platonic ideal. And so removing all of the permissions seems to be above board. There are lots of examples of us doing that. And removing, if you happened to have removed a permission that another test was relying on, that's actually that's a sign that another test wasn't cleaning up, should have been cleaning up, and the other test shouldn't have been relying on it. So that's also useful information. So what am I saying? There's a byproduct of doing things directly this way and failing and accepting certain failures. Like if this throws, if this throws, because ultimately services perms remove all can also throw, I'm pretty sure. Remove all, permission manager, remove all. This can also throw, because remove all internal, that returns an NS result. It's going to go through each one and let's see, remove all from memory. It's going to pass in clear. It's going to delete from the database, etc., etc. So like this could fail. And this is asynchronous. Thread-bound access, state closed, return clear the database, close the DB, rebuild on success. We return NSOK, but we remove all from this and remove all permissions. This could still fail, yeah. If we didn't reach here, I guess. Actually, no. I don't see a place where we would return a failure code. We would warn if this happened to fail, but we remove them from memory. So here's my answer. Do the simple thing, and when things break in your test, generally you want to make more noise rather than suppress it. Like a try catch like this in a test is a great way of you're gonna catch them all sorts of things, and that's useful information, even if it's only somewhat related to this test. If someone broke something in how the permissions test utils or the permission manager works, this could have been the thing that would have let us know. And so being direct and not just catching and silently failing here seems legitimate. In the case of permissions remove all, I will note that it doesn't look like it would return anything but NSOK. However, it would warn on debug builds, and our tests run on debug builds, and that could cause that. I believe that will cause notifications potentially. My argument is not very strong. Here. But I will say that I think there is a little bit of overthinking going on here. We should focus on testing the stuff that we care about, and then when we're done, just clean up. And if this happened to throw, or if services perms.remove all happens to fail, it's still useful information to know that in the test. I wouldn't use a try catch and a cleanup like that. I'd want to know that cleaning up failed for some reason. I do think that the privacy pane task itself should take care of cleaning itself up, because if we happen to fail by the time we reach here, that's actually useful information. You want to like stop the presses. Don't just like carry on. You want to like throw a wrench in the works. You have a test failure, so like fail loudly when your test fails. So I don't know if that answers your question. Your reviewer thinks that you can simplify this. I will say it is certainly more idiomatic to use services perms remove all. That's other tests are doing that. I certainly think that doing generalized try catches like this, even in cleanups, we don't want to do that, because we want to know about when things have failed. and then fix them. And it's possible, just sort of, that's tier 0, tier 1 feedback on the patch. Tier 2 feedback, these could potentially be deduplicated. They're doing much of the same work to one another. And then I'd put this clean. I'd take this out entirely. I'd put this cleanup inside of down here. It's matters of taste too. You know, like there's a little bit of there aren't any hard and fast rules. I think it's matters of taste. It's matters of taste. Thank you. Generally, if a test throws an exception, won't that prevent execution of any other tests or stop the whole test suite? Not always. The test framework will clean up and then it will attempt to execute the next test. However, it's possible that any leftovers from the prior test will cause later tests to fail. But that's kind of the fail loud, fail proud kind of idea where I would recommend if you're going to fail, the worst case scenario is you fail and no one notices. If the test fails and it's like quiet, it doesn't trip up the CI, it doesn't show up very loudly in the logs. If there's a test failure, it should explode so that you can like pay attention to it. And so not if there's a failure and it won't do any of the other tests, to me, I'm personally fine with that. But it will attempt to do the other tests. The test framework will attempt to go on. Certainly there have been times when the failure will have obliterated any of the following tests because a certain assumption has been broken and it, like all those other tests rely on it. But other times you might be running a suite of tests and just the one fails, just one assertion fails. But that's still a nice loud signal. I don't know if I've answered your question. I did my best. In some ways, there's matters of taste here, and what is, because like I'll give you an example of matters of taste. I had recommended to put remove tab down here, but to keep services perms remove all in a register cleanup function. But those almost seem in conflict with one another. Like why would we put remove tab down here and not also put services perms remove all? Like if we assume that we'll have cleaned up the tab, why don't we assume that we'll clean up the permissions down here as well? What is the point of register cleanup function? And I think it's matters of taste. I think it's like, I find it more typical looking through our tests to see cleanup of data store entries inside of register cleanup function and more tab-related cleanup taking place within the test itself, particularly using helpers like with new tab. There's also this function, if I remember correctly. Does it take a... No. Yeah, I mean, with new tab wouldn't work for you for the about preferences. This is the right way of using it. It would be nice if it had a similar sort of like, you call this, you don't have to care about holding a reference. There'd be like some kind of like task function that runs your assertions, and then once that task function completes, this function would deal with cleaning up. That would be nice. But it is about matters of taste and what people are used to. You know, it's not always like a cut and dry. Some of it's just, this is what I'm used to. This is what I like to see. Yeah. So anyways, thank you for the patch. I hope I helped a little bit answering your question. Thank you for the patch. Speaking of patches, I had originally landed a patch. We've been working on this for a couple of weeks, this 48-hour activation window thing. And I landed patches for it for the different variants earlier today, and I was like, yay, let's write some tests for it now. But then I got backed out at lunch. I was like, oh, I got backed out. So I want to now investigate why I got backed out and reland these. So let's take, I have not looked at any of this in advance. let us quickly see what happened. So here's the push with the failures. It was the new tab job, and it is claiming that activitystream.css is out of date. Of course, and I know exactly what happened. I added a license header, and I forgot to rebundle. So let me do that now. Mock new tab bundle. I'll bet you when we re-examine the bundle, it'll be that we added a license header. Yeah, there's a license header. So let me go ahead and merge that in. And new IVU. It's fab, submit. Let's not get caught with that again. Mock new tab bundle. Let's see if there's any other things that need to happen with the bundles, or if it's all good. Okay, submit rebundle from missed license header edition. So we're gonna submit that up for review, and then I'll re-trigger a landing. Whoo! And then now we can work on our tests. And what tests were I thinking about? Is that English? What test was I thinking about? Well, actually, before I do that, let me just see if there are any other failures in here that seem related. No, these are all known intermittents. No. Okay, I think we're good. So we'll go ahead and re-land this now. Preview landing. Has previously landed. That's okay. Re-land. And now let's talk a little bit about the tests I was thinking of. So I had filed 2 follow-ups for tests that I thought we could work on today. The first one is making sure that we test that I had added the mechanism that passes the profile creation timestamp accessor onto ActivityStream. This test will ensure that the creation timestamp can be passed to ActivityStream and accessed via the read-only getter. This should also add a mock test browser test that ensures that the creation timestamp exists on versions of Firefox for 149 and up. Yes. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to find the ActivityStream.test.js, and I believe what we did is made it. Oh, no. New lazy.activitystream. We did this here. So we need to check to see. Describe. It should exist. Should initialize with initialized is false. It should allow. Should. Whenever we pass no creation timestamp, it should be null. Yeah. Have a null created instant if not constructed with one. So assert const no create instant as equals new activity stream. Assert is assert is null. Do we have that? Is null? Yeah, okay. Assert is null. Created instant. Expect. And what do you? I don't know if we need to include anything in there. And then this one should have a created instant value if constructed. What that should have a created instant value exposed via if constructed with one. So we're gonna say created instant, and we're gonna pass it. Now I don't think, what is it? Temporal? Don't think we have temporal here. The node environment, I'm pretty sure if I say, all right, hang on, mock, quit, exit, what is it? Yeah, mock node. Temporal. Yeah, not defined. The node environment does not know what temporal is, but we can pretend that a date is a temporal, since activity stream isn't really doing any type checking here. It's just holding on to whatever it was constructed with and exposing it as with a getter. Const instant equals new date. Past that, assert is equal. Assert is equal. Yeah, no, is false. Okay. How about assert dot equal? Yeah, assert equal. Or is it assert strict equal? Let's just do assert equal. Create instant. Quit. Whatever. Error. Mock. npm run testmc unit prefix browser extensions new tab. Run the tests. Yay. Okay, so that's the first one. That it expects and can expose a created instant, but it can be null. Okay, so that's part one. And then the other part is a Moki test browser test. Browser activation window. Let's add a task here. Created instant property. Create instant getter. Okay. Tests that the create instant getter is being populated. With the current profile creation date. Okay. Let's get the profile creation date. Profile age. Under browser. Profile accessor equals profile age, let creation instant equal await profile accessor dot created, and then what we're going to do is the same thing that we do with it's a little from epoch milliseconds, temporal instant milliseconds. creation instant. Assert. Now, is there? How do you check equivalence with temporal equal? Plain date instance. Is there like a way of checking instance equal temporal instant equals? Returns true if this instant is equivalent to value to another instant. Instant 1 equals instant 2. Okay, assert okay about what was it? Activity stream? About new tab activity stream, yeah. I don't think it's been overridden yet. Assert okay about new tab activity stream created instant should have a created instant exposed, should have been constructed with a created instant, and then assert okay about new tab activity stream created instant dot equals creation instant. I don't like that. Activity stream dot created instant should equal the profile creation instant. Is it's creation instant, or is it created instant, and then created. Okay. Let us now run that test. Mock. Test browser. Extensions, new tab. Test browser activation window. Profile age not defined. Whoopsie daisy. I gotta bring it in. Try again. Easy peasy. Okay, commit. Bug. Created instant accessor. Bug such and such. Add tests for created instant accessor on activity stream. Our home new tab reviewers. That'll be who reviews this patch. Then the next thing I'll do is I'll assign that to myself, and then I want to add a test for new tab message dismissal. So I filed this today. And these other patches are going to land in advance of a test for this, but I would like to add a test for this. I just have to sort of like come back up to speed on what it was. I wanted to test that if new tab messaging dispatch on message dismiss, we toggle visibility to false. Okay, so do we have any other pre-existing tests for this? Not really. New tab messaging does not have much in the way of testing, it looks like. Or if it does, where would it be? Test new tab. Oh, it does. New tab messaging. Very good. Can be initialized. simulate telemetry. Okay, so we want to basically add to this, add task, async function, test dismissal. Test that dismissing a message sends the event, sends the action to hide that message on all existing new tabs. Okay. So we might want to notification, create mock subject. So if we say message dismiss, then it should make all messages hidden. Okay. Hide all current messages on all existing new tabs. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor this out into a helper. Function get test new tab messaging. Returns an instance of new tab messaging that has its store mocked out and instrumented for easier testing. And so what we'll do is we'll take a sandbox as an argument, and then we're going to move this to here. Oh, mock dispatch. Return messaging mock dispatch. And then let messaging mock dispatch equal get test new tab messaging sandbox. And let's just make sure that that test still runs. Mock test, what is this called? Test new tab messaging.js. Yep, all good. And then test dismissal. So we're going to do the same thing here. Get our faked out oh, you know what instead is task function. Instead of returning this, we'll pass it to task function messaging mock dispatch. Instead of returning, and then we will uninit. Async function. And then over here, we will go await messaging mock dispatch. And then we will put these things inside this. Get rid of that. That takes care of the cleanup for us. And then we'll do the same structure just going to suck out all the logic on the inside. That should still pass. Oh. What in tarnation? Mock, tests, new, tab, messaging.js. Yeah, okay, still good. And then here, what we'll do is we're going to dispatch I'm going to bring in action type. Action types, and we're going to bring in action creators. Maybe we just need action types. No, because I want to see whether or not it was called with also to preloaded. How would I do that? Also to preloaded. Also to preloaded. Route message. How do we test that is true? Is true is send to preloaded. What is AU? Action utils. Where does action utils also comes from? Okay, action creators, action utils. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we are going to pass it message dismiss. Messaging. Oh, hang on. Have I? Oh no. Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna pass call on action is what I'll do. Call. Yeah, I'll call on action. I'm gonna pass it. To on action test. And then type. Action type. And then it's message dismiss. And then I have the data. Message. Some message ID. And then I'm going to assert okay messaging.store.called with and then I want to get the action out. Called with. Well, I guess I can do. Calls 0. Calls get call. What it's going to be called with is this. Assert called once. Should have dispatched a single action. And then we're going to const call const action equals messaging dot store dispatch. get call 0, assert, okay, equal action dot type should be at message toggle visibility, should have sent the action to toggle visibility, and then the data assert deep equal action dot data should be is visible false, should have sent the action to, should have set visibility to false, and then should have been broadcast to everybody. Assert or AU is sent to main. I want is send to preloaded. Is broadcast to content. Where is it? Also to preloaded. So it should be, where am I? Is it sent to preload meta to preload message type from main? Preload message type is sent to preloaded. Also to preloaded. Okay, route message. So assert, okay. Action utils is sent to preloaded. Action should be sending the action to all new tabs instances, including the preloaded one. Action util is not defined. It's right here, dog. I think VS Code's just confused. All right, run it. AT is not defined. Oh, action types. Action types. And I never used mock dispatch. What was mock dispatch again? Mock dispatch. What was that used for? Oh, I think that can probably come out of this and become part of this. And then this comes out. And then we don't need to pass that. And we don't, yeah, okay, so let's try that. Maybe forgot an and T for AT and T. 111. Assert equal action.type is currently undefined. What? Let's debug this. Okay, what is action? Action. Action.type. Nothing. Oh, action.args is what I want. I want action.args. That's what I want. I don't, get call args. What? Still? What? Let's do that again. What did I miss? What did I miss? Really expected that to work. Good joke, Smurf D. I like it. I like the cut of your jib. Action.type. Oh, action. Oh, it's an array. Of course, of course. Action. It's the first one. It's the only argument, I think. So we will let that play. Shut that down. Run. We did it. We did it. Okay, let's add some documentation for the utilities that we just added. And I think we're going to call it for these tests. Tests that we can route a message that tests that the new tab message notification, observer notification, can be used to show messages on new tab. Okay. Param. Sign on the sandbox. Is that how we do that? Param. Sign on sandbox. Or do we do sandbox? I think we're going to do sign on sandbox. Sandbox, a sign-on sandbox for mocking and spying, stubbing and spying, and then task function browser. Async function. Where have I seen this done really well? At param function, and then here it's like they supply the arguments, and that's what I want. Like, what's the form of this? I think this is the form. Function, you supply you say what it takes. In this case, it takes messaging, new tab messaging, and it just returns a promise. Void. An async function that accepts a test instance of new tab messaging to undergo testing, to manipulate. This new tab this instance has its store stubbed out. Oh, that's fine. That's probably fine. This instance is pre-initialized. uninitialized after task function resolves or settles, I'll say. No, resolves. All right, and I think that's that. And then were there any other tests? I don't think so. One more time. Okay, let's run the whole suite. Okay, and now let's run the whole suite of Moki tests. Make sure that we didn't introduce any problems. I'll do it headless. Any questions about what I just did? Any thoughts or whatnot? I can try and answer. And then I have to come up with what the next thing is that I want to do. I've got maybe 15 minutes left in the episode. Maybe we can review a patch. Let me see if there's anything in my review queue that we could fit in. I'm going to do that off screen because I don't know what's in my review queue. Okay, here's something. Seems like something we could review. Okay, let me bring this over. So that all passed. Let's get these committed. Make sure nothing untoward got included. Oh, mock. Oh, here we'll do JJ commit, bug, add a test for new tab messages dismissal. Tests that dismissing a message dismissing a message from new tab messaging hides all messages, all current messages on all new tabs instances, home new tab reviewers. Okay, and then I'm going to do mock lint outgoing fix, see if there's any linting stuff. Today I learned in September 2004, Stephen Horlander created the now ubiquitous RSS icon for use in the Mozilla Firefox browser. That's true. Shorelander is how I remember him. Stephen Horlander, one of the greatest designers, browser designers I ever worked with. Really excellent guy too. I think I don't know where he is now. For a while he was working at DuckDuckGo. I don't know where he went, but great designer. Okay, those all look good. I'm going to go ahead and submit those for review. Laws Fab submit QLV WM. Actually, I'll just submit the whole stack. Oh, because the revision is closed. Okay, so I'll just submit the top two. QLV to WM. Submit QLV WM. And that is that? Shouldn't have shown you that. That was my email. Probably nothing security related in there, but that should be closed. All right. What's next? Let us quickly review this patch. 2012593 adds an egress location pref to conditionally display egress location in the status panel. Okay, so put the visibility of the VPN egress location in the status panel behind a pref. We want the ability to hide the egress location. You're submitting with JJ. Is that the new Google drop-in for Git? Is it from Google? Is it from Google? Where is it from? Oh my guts. What is the... Where is this coming from? Who is this? Development roadmap, contributing concepts, testimonials, FAQ. I want to know who runs this thing. Who runs the show? Martin Vons. Who is Martin Vons? Works on source control at Google. So yeah, it is. That's the new Google drop-in for Git. Yes. I really enjoy Jujitsu. I don't think I'll ever use Git directly again. I am so happy with Jujitsu. And I actually learned it on this stream. I don't remember which episode it was. I think it was like one of the holiday ones, or was it 400? Let's hear a song. What was the episode? Jujitsu. Does anyone remember? You know what? I'll bet you it's in the episode guide. Joy of Coding episode guide. Once I get the search engine up and running, I can do that, but Jujitsu. Let's learn some Jiu-Jitsu. Is this one? Episode 397. On March 25th, I decided to learn some Jiu-Jitsu. And so if you're curious to know how I'm using it, check that episode out. Jamie Katz writes, can you just give a quick overview of the JS test methods you've been using? These are just custom Moz functions? Let's see. So which test methods are we talking about here? We've got a bunch of modules, like very Mozilla-y modules that we're bringing in, but are you talking about like Nimbus test utils or test utils? Or like, let's take a look at the stuff that we added right now. Add task? Is that what you mean? Give me some examples of what you're talking about. And then we'll talk about it. Assert, the assert one. Maybe it was over here. Like the sign-on stuff, or and Danny Colin just linked to this. The assert ones. Okay. Just follow IRC, Libera IRC channel. That's interesting. Martin von Zwigberg, started Jiu-Jitsu as a hobby project in late 2019 and has evolved into my full-time project at Google with several other Googlers now assisting development in various capacities. That said, while Google is one of the main contributors, this is not a supported Google product. Support is provided by the community. I love it. I love it. Assert is coming from this module. Assert.sys. Nope, not this one. We wrote our own assert module. It's in our testing suite. And so, like, there are other assert modules. Lots of testing frameworks come with them. Everyone is different. This one is ours. That's fine because Google pays their salaries. It's true. it's true. And in a way, that's great because like I want jiu-jitsu to survive and exist. I'm happy that it is basically being supported by Google. But I think what they're trying to say here is that it's not a supported Google product, in that it is not a thing that Google puts their label on and is like, and this is a Google product, and we back it with the Google guarantee of quality and policies and whatnot. Like it's not in the Google product portfolio. It's a project that's spun out of Google, and Google funds, so monetarily supports the project because they pay for at least some people, it seems like, to work on this full time, and that's actually great. You don't, that model used to. I think it should be more common. You want to have, if you are working on open source that's valuable, maybe you rely on some open source stuff that's valuable. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. And I'll also say Mozilla's not perfect in this regard. But it is a good idea that if you rely on certain things, certain open source libraries maybe, that you kick some money their way to help sustain those projects that you yourself rely on. And if you can't send money, maybe you can pay people to help maintain it. Maybe you can help pay the salary of the people to keep that project going. And so, yeah, I mean, we, I know at Mozilla we've done this before. We had the Moss grants for a while, but we also, I think we do pay people to work on certain types of, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know it's happened. I know other organizations like Red Hat has at least some people on staff working on Firefox. Igalia has people working on Firefox. Yeah, I think for a while there we had people from HP, especially like the revamped printing stuff. They were working with us. So anyways, it's a good idea. If you work at a company that's relying on open source software, and maybe you can't get your company to cut a check to help keep the software alive, maybe you can convince your employer to help to pay you or someone else to help maintain that software. And yeah, Stransky from Red Hat is doing like a bunch of stuff. Rust and Servo, yeah, of course. So we have people working on Rust. We have people contributing to Rust. We have people We still have people contributing periodically. We'll contribute. We'll be hanging around in like the WebKit and the Blink bug trackers. Like, it's all one big happy family. It's cooperation. But we just want the web to be better. Anyways, that was a real departure. Jamie Katz, you wanted to know more about... That's right. Hey, that's true. We contribute to Stylo and SpiderMonkey, which is also used by Servo. WebRender is also used by Servo. Servo is used for other things. People like Servo is a toolkit of various bits and pieces that can be assembled into some semblance of a browser. And but yeah, there are I guess what I'm trying to say is, in the same way that, remember BitTorrent? You could be a leech on BitTorrent where you don't do any uploading, you just download. So if there's like some asset, some file that you want, you join the BitTorrent, but you don't upload, you don't share, you just pull down bits, and then as soon as you have the file, you leave. That was called like leeching. So you're not kind of like giving back or helping to propel the thing that you took advantage of. It's a good idea if you're going to take advantage of open source software to try and give back a little bit. It's not the rule, but it is a good idea, especially if you want to continue to take advantage of that software in the future and not have it collapse underneath you if it's a piece of load-bearing software. So we talked about assert.sys.mjs. I don't know if there were any other functions you wanted to talk about, Jamie. Just let me know. So, do we have time to review this patch? Let's see. The location UI is rendered. So I'm not part of the IP protection crew. I don't know exactly why I was added as a reviewer. Oh, because we're updating preferences. That's why. And I'm part of the reviewer rotation on preferences. So my job is going to be to review the changes here to the privacy mechanism, the privacy dialog. So we add. Yeah, I agree. If this isn't going to be exposed or used in about preferences, about settings, then we don't need this. Then we don't need to add this. I agree. And there are all these bits and pieces. So I think that's my 2 cents. I'm gonna actually resign as a reviewer, or maybe request changes. There you go. And then that's it. I think I'm gonna call it there. Jamie Katz is typing something. We have 3 minutes remaining. I'll do my best to try and answer whatever's coming. This is about the Moz VPN. Well, that's a really good question, because there's like the VPN client for desktop and mobile. So there's like the Mozilla, was it the vpn.mozilla.com .org? Yeah, there's this VPN. And then there's a separate VPN project that is underway that's built into the browser that we're going to have like a free tier on, I believe, so that you don't necessarily have to pay for some browser VPN protection up to a limit. Now, you can pay for more to exceed that free tier limit, but you're given a limit for like a month or something. Like, so for every month, we'll start your limit back at 0, and then I think that's how it's going to work. I'm not on the team, but it's starting very, very small. I think it's just in the US right now, and I think they've rolled it out to a very small population just to test the infrastructure, because it's not using the same VPN infrastructure that we use for the desktop, sort of like desktop and mobile clients that are sort of like system-wide VPNs. This is a separate, very browser-focused VPN that has a free tier. But hey, just an FYI, if you don't have a VPN and you want to help support Mozilla Corporation, this is a great way to do that. Also, you can save 50% on Mozilla VPN with an annual subscription. That's very nice. Okay, well, I think that's it. I'm going to probably call it there. Thank you so much for watching episode 428 of The Joy of Coding. Let me know what you thought. There is a link in the agenda to rate this episode. J Matrix says, thanks for the live hacking. I'm a student and the curriculum is too heavily focused on syntax. Watching your stream lets me observe and see your thought process / creating a mental model before and surrounding the code writing part. Hey, that's great. I'm so happy to hear it. Probably one of the most impactful moments, because I remember being in school. I was in a software engineering, I was like software engineering 101 or something. Or maybe it was the 200 series. I don't remember. But that's all well and good. We're learning about requirements gathering and prototyping and like the waterfall model and Scrum and like all these different techniques for like building software. And then we had a day where we had a professional developer come in, a fellow by the name of Blake, who became my manager here at Mozilla for a while. I wasn't working, I was in school, and I don't think he was working at Mozilla yet. But he came in because he was a friend of the instructor, my grad supervisor, Greg. And he did some live debugging. He had like, I think at the time it was it like an iPhone game, or maybe it was like a Palm Pilot game? I can't remember because this is that long ago. But it was a game that he'd been kind of hacking on the side that had a bug, and he did some live debugging in front of the whole crowd, talking aloud. That experience really informed this stream, this series. Because that was a very formative moment, because I got to watch a professional think through the problem, and I got to watch him struggle. Because it's not like software development isn't always easy, you know, it's oftentimes a struggle. And oftentimes what we see is the end product. We see the patch that has been written, or we see the solution to a problem, but we don't see the struggle to get there. And so I liked being able to be exposed to the struggle, and that is there's a process. There's a kind of like a scientific method of hypothesis testing and cornering a problem in, and building up a mental model and testing your mental model and then refining and correcting your mental model until you kind of come to equilibrium with the problem, and then you can solve it. It's very zen in the art of motorcycle maintenance. But yeah, it's I highly recommend you know, not just this stream. There are other people live hacking on stuff. It's worth watching other people write software and thinking out loud. And there's some great stuff out there. I've got some links here of people, various streams I've seen in the past. There was one recently. Oh, who is this fellow? Let me see if I can find him real quick. I've watched some of his streams, and I think they're really good. I've watched some clips. I don't think I've watched a full stream yet. But let me just plug this one streamer, and then I'll call it. What's his name? Come on. Oh, come on. I see this guy all the time. You know what? I'll bet you it's in my watch history. Hold on. Watch history, shorts. Bet you it's in my watch history. Come on. I see him all the time. It's crazy. Why is it not in my... There he is. What's his name? Nathan Baggs. So, of the stuff I've seen from this guy, he's very interesting. He does a lot of like low-level hacking in C++. So let me pull this up. This fella. And you get to watch him like talk through how he'll like hack through some old DRM stuff to make a game run on modern hardware. And he's got like these live streams where he's working on like a first-person shooter from scratch. He did 3 hours the other day. That's crazy. And he'll like answer questions. So he's doing like these epic streams where he's working on a first-person shooter and in C++ and OpenGL, and that's very cool. So check him out. You know what? I'm going to add that to my links list here. Nathan Baggs. Why not? Check him out. And with that, I think I'm going to call it. Again, thank you so much for watching The Joy of Coding. Here's a link to rate the episode. I read everything that comes in. This is a great opportunity as well to answer questions. So you can like ask me questions with the form, and I will do my best to answer them on the stream. I read everything that comes in. And here's the link. I just dropped it in the chat. And it's also in the agenda here. And with that, we'll call it. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you hopefully next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.